Typically, the victim is lured into a situation where he or she is given a drink. Typically, that drink, reported by these victims, is apparently laced with something. Once that drink takes effect, the perpetrators perform all kinds of sexual acts on the victims, many times passing him or her around as other people watch and enjoy the show, and then leave the victim ashamed, confused, injured, and wondering what happened. When the victim reaches out, he or she is told not to say anything. Sometimes there are threats of physical violence or financial repercussions or bodily harm.
Flying has always been my world. The sky is my refuge, a place where I can feel truly free. I've flown for ordinary vacationers, businessmen closing deals, even celebrities and billionaires living lives that seem to belong to another realm. But never could I have imagined that one day I would fly for those hiding dark secrets behind their luxurious facades. In the world of private jets, where everything seems flawless, I've witnessed things no one else has seen. It's a world that glitters with wealth but conceals something far more dangerous beneath the surface. I've piloted planes for those who live without rules, above every law. For a pilot, flying is routine, a mix of focus and precision, all under control. But that morning when I received the call, something felt off. This wasn't going to be an ordinary flight. Nothing that happened should have ever taken place. Why did I feel like something terrible was about to happen? The answers I would find were more terrifying than I could have ever imagined. This wasn't just about flying. Something far bigger was at play. Now I know the sky hides more secrets than I ever thought possible, and those secrets could destroy me. It was a morning like any other, or so I thought. The house was chaotic. I was in the kitchen making pancakes while the kids ran around screaming, getting ready for school. My wife rushed back and forth, trying to keep things in order, reminding everyone to grab their backpacks and tie their shoes. It was the typical family commotion, but there was comfort in those moments. The normalcy, the familiarity, the routine you think you can count on. But that morning wasn't like the others. Suddenly my phone buzzed on the counter. I saw my manager's name. A message from him was never good news. I didn't hear from him often, and when I did, it always meant something urgent. Every fiber of my being told me not to answer, but something pushed me to do it. What seemed like an ordinary morning was about to turn into a nightmare. What was going to happen? "Hey, you need to listen to me," my manager said, his voice rushed, almost anxious. "Diddy needs a pilot, it's an emergency." My heart skipped a beat. Diddy, the one everyone knows? "What's going on?" I asked, already uneasy. "He's hosting one of his wild parties and the usual pilots are out sick. You're the only one who can do it. You need to go right now." My stomach tightened. Flying for someone like Diddy wasn't just a job, it was an event. And not just any event, but a dark spectacle surrounded by mystery, legends, and rumors. A man who had turned his life into a tale of excess, vice, and scandal. The kind of life that pulls you in, drains you, and leaves you slipping into darkness if you're not careful. Sensing my hesitation, my manager pressed on. "Look, the money's insane. It'll cover you for months. And this isn't just a job. You'll have a co-pilot. Everything's under control. You might even get an invite to the party, stay in his villa or at least in a luxury hotel. It's a huge opportunity. You can't pass this up." It all sounded too good to be true, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. Diddy wasn't just a successful man. He was someone who harbored many secrets. And now I was about to step into his world, a world I might regret ever entering. When I heard the figure, I got chills. I wasn't desperate, but that kind of money could change everything. It wasn't just a paycheck, it was freedom, a chance to breathe, to be set for a while. When I told my wife, her face turned serious. "I don't like it," she said, her voice full of worry. "Something about this doesn't feel right." I understood her fear. If I accepted, I'd be gone, leaving her to handle everything alone. But I tried to reassure her. "It's only 5 days and then I'll be back. The money will be worth it." But the more I talked, the stronger that strange feeling grew inside me. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. As I packed my bags, that unease wouldn't let go. Before bed, I kissed my kids goodnight, promising them something special when I returned. I hugged my wife, still seeing the worry in her eyes. But I convinced myself, everything will be fine. That uneasy feeling stayed with me, following me as I packed, and even now I wonder if I missed the danger staring me in the face. The alarm went off at 5 a.m., cutting through my restless sleep. I felt like I hadn't closed my eyes all night. My heart was pounding, but I had to get up. I had to go. I rushed to get ready, double-checking everything as though something might be out of place. As I stepped outside, the city was still dark, the streets deserted, and the silence made everything more unsettling. The drive to the hangar was strange. It usually takes over an hour, but today it took only 30 minutes. The city was asleep, and the heavy air seemed to foretell something bad. When I arrived, my manager was already there, pacing nervously near the jet. He greeted me with a smile that didn't seem genuine, as though he was trying to hide something. "You'll be flying Diddy," he said, handing me the flight details. 5 days, a private party with thousands of celebrities. No problem, and the money is worth more than you can imagine. But something in that smile told me there was much more to it. What was I about to find? Why did an invitation this special make me feel like I was stepping into something I'd regret? As soon as I stepped onto the jet, an unsettling feeling washed over me. I couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. The jet was luxurious, as expected. Leather seats, a well-stocked bar, and all the usual trappings. But then I noticed strange details. Bottles of baby oil scattered around, random toys left lying about, and small packages that appeared to contain hazardous substances. What was going on here? I paced nervously, trying to determine whether this was normal or if something deeper was at play. The co-pilot arrived and we conducted the pre-flight checks, but the atmosphere felt heavy. There was a secret in the air, something I wasn't supposed to uncover. And then, he arrived. Diddy. They arrived with an entourage of stunning women, all exuding confidence, as if they were accustomed to being in the spotlight. But what froze my blood was what followed. Behind them, a group of about 10 children dressed in strange outfits, like porcelain dolls. Their faces were eerily made up, their eyes downcast, their expressions blank as if they saw nothing around them. They didn't speak. They didn't look at anyone. They moved stiffly, like robots. What were they doing here? I couldn't help but wonder. But as a pilot, I knew I wasn't supposed to ask questions. My job was to fly the plane, not get into trouble. But that scene haunted me. The children, their eerie stillness. What were they hiding? I couldn't stop asking myself. There was something disturbingly wrong about all of this, and I had a sinking feeling that I didn't want to know the truth behind that strange procession. Once we were airborne, I couldn't look away. Through the cockpit window, I saw things I was never meant to see. The adults were completely out of control, drinking, snorting substances off tables, and engaging in acts I couldn't even begin to describe. And then there were the children. The children didn't move, didn't speak. They seemed completely detached from the chaos around them. The atmosphere was chilling. I saw one of the boys being handed a drink, and my heart leaped into my throat. I turned to the co-pilot, my voice barely audible. "Are you seeing this?" He didn't even look at me. "Don't," he said, his tone weary and resigned. "It's their jet, their rules. We're just here to fly, not ask questions." I wanted to protest. I wanted to tell him this wasn't normal, that there was something horrifying and wrong about what we were witnessing. But I knew he was right. There was nothing I could do. It was too late to stop, too late to understand. We were trapped in a nightmare at 30,000 feet, and the terror of what was happening grew heavier with each passing moment. When we landed, the island looked like a dream. Turquoise waters, sunlit villas. It was all perfect, luxurious. Exactly what you'd expect from someone like Diddy. But beneath that beauty, something was off. I felt a strange chill, as though something sinister lurked beneath the surface of that perfection. As soon as we stepped off the jet, The group of models and children dispersed, leaving us alone to take in the island. Guards ushered us in without a word, but the atmosphere was strange. The marble corridors were opulent, but the air felt tense. The staff's eyes darted nervously, their expressions hard. No one spoke. It was as if they had an unspoken agreement. We were just pawns in a game we didn't understand. The beauty was just a facade. The more I looked around, the more I felt the island hid something dangerous, something we weren't meant to uncover. Every step seemed to bring us closer to a truth we didn't want to face. And yet I couldn't stop wondering, was this a dream or a trap? They took us to a hidden hotel far from everything else. The room was bare, a small bed, white sheets, a single lamp on the nightstand. It looked cheap, but there was something odd about it. The feeling of being watched, as if everything was under surveillance, never left me. Every little detail made me feel trapped in something I couldn't understand. As we tried to settle in, a sharp knock at the door startled me. A guard from Diddy's entourage stood there, his gaze cold and threatening. Without a word, he handed us outfits, skirts, clothing no man would expect to wear. "Get ready," he said in a tone devoid of emotion. "Be prepared by 8 p.m. Leave your phones in the room, no exceptions." I tried to protest, but I'm a pilot, not... He cut me off with a glare that froze me in place. No exceptions. It was clear. This place, these people, were part of something we couldn't stop. What would happen at 8 p.m.? Who was truly pulling the strings here? I knew we didn't have a choice. When I saw the outfit, my heart sank. A short skirt. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe I was expected to wear it. This wasn't just clothing, it was an insult, an act of complete humiliation. I looked at my co-pilot and saw the same discomfort and confusion on his face. We both knew there was nothing we could do. We had to comply. When the clock struck 8 p.m., there was no choice left. I had to put it on. I felt invaded by shame, as if I was losing a part of myself. I stood in front of the mirror, incredulous. This wasn't the life I had envisioned. This wasn't just a job. It was something much more, something that had now become a part of me. I tried to convince myself it was just another task to complete, but the shame clung to me. What if it was already too late to get out? The walk to the villa was loaded with tension. The guards stared at us as if waiting for the slightest mistake, daring us to do something wrong. When we reached the checkpoint, the search was long and uncomfortable, as if they were looking for any excuse to stop us. Their icy, relentless gazes made you feel like prey. Once inside, the villa overwhelmed us with its gaudy wealth. The marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceilings, but the beauty didn't provide any sense of peace. On the contrary, it felt like an illusion, something too perfect to be true. Every room seemed designed to impress, but there was something unnerving about every detail. The beauty masked a shadow. The heat inside the villa was stifling. The air felt heavy, as if you couldn't breathe properly. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It was as if an invisible danger lurked within those walls, ready to strike at any moment. The place seemed too perfect, too luxurious, not to hide something sinister. Every corner seemed to watch my every move. I couldn't shake the feeling that, behind all that opulence, there was something far more dangerous waiting to reveal itself. And I had just arrived. Another guard gathered us into a circle. His presence was commanding, and the tone of his voice left no room for doubt. No one was to question anything. "The rules are simple," he said, staring at us with cold eyes. "Don't talk too much, move quickly, and above all, never refuse a drink." As he said this, the weight of his threat was clear. "If anyone refuses, let us know immediately," he ordered. It was a rule we couldn't ignore. Then, with a chilling whisper that froze the air, he added, "If you don't drink, you're out. And trust me, you don't want to know what happens to those who are out." His words made my skin crawl. Out wasn't just an invitation to leave the party. It was a threat. A dark warning that I could feel on my skin. We didn't know what out meant, but one thing was clear. No one wanted to find out. That unspoken menace hung in the air like an invisible force, ready to crush us, and no one dared to rebel. The night grew more terrifying by the minute. Drinks flowed endlessly, the music roared, and the crowd lost all control. The villa, which initially seemed elegant, turned into a chaotic, animalistic frenzy. People drank, danced, and engaged in acts that made my blood run cold. Some collapsed to the ground, only to be revived with injections as if it were routine. I tried not to look, moving through the crowd, struggling to keep calm. But as the night went on, I couldn't ignore the children. They didn't drink, didn't dance, didn't do any of the things the others did. They were just there, and their presence made my skin crawl. Their eyes were empty, their faces locked in a fear that didn't belong to their age. Those kids seemed out of place, like shadows in a nightmare. There was something sick, something wrong. They were trapped, perhaps in something far darker than I could imagine. The fear etched on their faces wasn't ordinary. It felt like they were there for a reason no one was meant to discover. I found myself at a party I still couldn't fully understand how I ended up at. Suddenly, I saw a woman preparing drinks. She added a pink powder to each glass, stirring it slowly until it completely dissolved. My curiosity got the better of me, and I asked, "What's that powder?" I didn't expect her reaction. She whipped around, her gaze freezing me in place. "Didn't they tell you not to ask questions?" she said in a chilling tone. "Do it again, and you won't leave here alive." Each word was a threat echoing in my head. Her voice, so cold, made me realize I had just stepped into dangerous territory. I quickly apologized and walked away, but my heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. The feeling that something deadly was about to happen haunted me. Every step I took seemed to bring me closer to a secret no one should ever uncover. And now, it seemed too late to turn back. A guard approached. Without saying a word, he handed me a glass filled with a strange, glittering liquid. "Drink," he commanded, his tone emotionless. My heart raced. My mind screamed that something was wrong. The pink powders I'd seen, the strange behavior of everyone around me. There was something more going on. But the guard's eyes bore into mine, hard and menacing. I knew I had no choice. I took the glass, my hands trembling. The liquid was thick, bitter, as if it was meant to burn me from the inside. As soon as I swallowed it, the world around me shifted. My head spun. The party became a distant echo, the sounds muffled, as though I were trapped in a dark dream. What had they given me? My body felt different, but the real fear was just beginning. I woke up on the cold floor of the villa. My body ached, covered in cuts and bruises. I had no idea how much time had passed. The place, once full of life and noise, was now eerily quiet. Only a few people moved slowly like shadows. I was disoriented, trying to piece together what had happened. Then a hollow feeling hit my stomach. I wasn't wearing the outfit they'd given me. Panic set in as I frantically searched for something to cover myself. All I could find was a skirt soaked in baby oil. It was all I had, and I felt completely exposed. The cameras were still there, watching me like vultures circling their prey. I couldn't escape, and before I could even process what was happening, someone shoved another drink into my hand. Who was controlling this twisted game? The night grew darker, and so did everything around me. I couldn't take my eyes off the unnatural, eerie behavior of everyone at this party. The drinks were flowing faster now, and with each sip, people became wilder, as if they were losing themselves. There was something in those drinks, something that made people forget who they were. The air was thick with danger, a suffocating weight that felt impossible to ignore. I saw people collapse to the floor, their lifeless bodies only to be revived moments later with quick injections. The staff didn't even flinch. They acted as if this was normal. This wasn't just a party. It was something far worse, a game no one spoke about but everyone knew their role in. I tried to make sense of it all. My mind raced, but the pieces didn't fit. Then I saw a woman mixing that pink powder into a drink. It dissolved instantly, leaving no trace. But I had seen it. I knew what was happening. Something in that powder was taking control of their minds. My stomach turned as the realization hit me. I might be witnessing something far darker than I ever imagined. The weight of the situation crashed down on me. As the night dragged on, the walls seemed to close in. Then it hit me. This wasn't just a party. It was a power game. Diddy and his entourage controlled everything here. The drugs, the alcohol, the people, the kids. It was all part of a twisted plan. I was seeing something no one was supposed to. The truth was too horrifying. The party raged on, but the tension inside me became unbearable. Every passing minute reminded me how trapped I was in this nightmare. The villa was surrounded by guards. Every door was manned. How could I get out of here? The fear tightened its grip. Even if I managed to escape, where would I go? These people weren't just dangerous, they were a living nightmare. I couldn't trust anyone. I tried to think of an escape plan, but every idea came with a price. The guards were everywhere. Nothing felt safe. Going home? A distant dream. Each second that passed made me question whether I was already in too deep. If I fled, it would cost me everything. The party became more chaotic. People lost control, acting as though nothing could stop them. The fear in me grew stronger. I had to leave, but I couldn't. And then it happened. I saw a group of men leading children into an isolated room. The kids didn't resist. Their terror was visible. My mind screamed, but my body was frozen. I couldn't stop them, not without risking my life. I was trapped, powerless, and time was running out. My only hope was to escape, but every move felt like it could be my last. How could I flee from a nightmare that was consuming me alive? Hours passed and the air grew heavier. I couldn't stay in this place any longer. I felt suffocated. Every breath was a weight, and my mind was consumed by questions I couldn't answer. What had I seen? Every answer I found only made things worse. The fear was real, growing with every passing second. I tried to move away, to find a quiet corner to think, but I couldn't. A few steps in, and I felt a presence behind me. A guard appeared out of nowhere. His eyes were cold, devoid of emotion. He approached silently, stopping just a few feet away. The tension was unbearable. "You seem uncomfortable," he said, his voice low and menacing. "We can't allow that. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not. If you try to leave or talk, well, there will be consequences." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. A shiver ran down my spine. I looked around, but there was no way out. I had seen too much. I was trapped in something far bigger, far more dangerous than I could have imagined. There was no turning back. When I left that villa, I was a completely different person. It felt like I had aged 10 years in just a few days. My body was battered, my mind shattered, and my soul crushed under the weight of what I had witnessed. I knew I would never forget what had happened in there. The flight to the hangar was silent. My co-pilot didn't say a word, and I couldn't speak. We were both lost in our thoughts, trying to process what we had just lived through. But nothing I had seen in that villa would ever leave me. The flight back to Los Angeles was quiet, but I was trapped in my thoughts. The sun rose over the ocean, but I couldn't escape the images that haunted me. I couldn't stop thinking about the children, about the chaos. It was as if that moment had become a part of me, ready to explode at any second. When I finally got home, my kids ran to me, happy, unaware of what I had seen, unable to imagine what I had endured. They called me a hero, but I wasn't. I was just a man who had witnessed something too big to ignore. The truth of that villa was eating me alive, and I didn't know how I could go on. My wife hugged me, but there was a distance between us I couldn't bridge. She knew something was wrong, she felt it, but I couldn't tell her what I had seen. I didn't want to pull her into the nightmare that haunted me. The suitcase was still there, sitting in a corner of the room, unopened. Inside were the money, dirty money, stained with the horror I had witnessed. Every dollar inside represented a piece of me I had lost. Every memory of that villa was a wound that wouldn't heal. Here's the truth. That night changed me forever. The fear of what I had seen never leaves me. The truth is too much to bear, and the nightmare I lived follows me everywhere. I don't know how I'll move forward, but one thing is certain. The secret of that villa isn't over. and someone someday might discover that I know too much.